DNVR Draft Pod. We're doing it. That's right. Tis the season. Tis our season. Live from downtown Denver on the corner of Colfax and York, right above the DNVR bar. We are live from the Xfinity studio, presented by Bet365, the homies, taking care of all our Broncos coverage through and through. In fact, we need some draft props. Draft props coming soon.
When is that? Is it time yet?
It's time, buddy.
I mean, we should have combine props here soon, right?
I'm with you.
Combine over under season?
I'm with you.
Ooh, fastest 40s?
The books are ready. They're really dialed in on the big game. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, there's a game this week.
Gatorade colors and
the season ended 2 weeks ago.
The length of it, I could not agree more. In fact, a season has started, and it's draft season.
Of course.
It's
our time.
Full-blown draft season, which is why it is my absolute pleasure to have the man, the myth, the legend, the guy leading the way across all city for our draft coverage, and of course, coming to us from the Xfinity call-in line, it's Fran Duffy. Fran, good morning or afternoon by you.
Yeah, afternoon here. What's going on, guys? It's draft season may have just started for you guys. I've been in draft season, I feel like, since like May, so I'm ready to roll.
I know. It's funny how that's worked out in Philly. Yeah, we've had the first break in forever.
Yeah, that's true sicko stuff, because the draft's in April. Like, since May, this guy just never stops.
The Senior Bowl crept up on us this year like never before because we were still digesting the pain of an AFC championship loss, and we weren't really thinking about all-star games at all, Fran.
Yeah, I've been through all the different iterations of like the season was over in October. All right, so we're knee deep in these guys already, and then also whether it's a Super Bowl loss or a championship game loss, late playoff loss, just missed the playoffs, all the different feelings that you could have as a content creator around the game or as a fan growing up. I've experienced all that, so I'm there right there with you.
Yeah. But it's our season. Mm-hmm. And you were in Mobile just now for the Senior Bowl, went there right from the Shrine Bowl. Yep. So let's empty out the notebook. Who are the guys that helped their stock the most in the All-Star game circuit?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, it's an interesting class. And so what I mean by that is that there's not a lot of clarity at the very tippy top of the draft. Right. And so because of that, there's a lot of opportunity for guys to be able to rise up aboard and take advantage of that chaos. And so when I looked at how these all-star games were going to pan out, I was interested to see how many of the top names are going to go. Because if you are a player that is like right on the fringe of that top 10, top 15, if there's all this ambiguity above you on the board, quote unquote, above you, all right, well, now I can see this opportunity. I can grab it and run. So would we see fewer guys pull out of these games, some of the bigger names? And unfortunately, that wasn't the case. We did see. I remember flying down to Dallas a couple of Wednesdays ago for the Shrine Bowl, and I put my phone on airplane mode and I turned it back on. Turned it back on after the flight landed, and it was like, 10 new names added to the Shrine Bowl roster. I'm like, all right, late guys pulled out. Same thing happened for Senior Bowl just a few days later. So I had a bunch of big names that ended up pulling out from the game. I was excited to see, guys like Ruben Bain. And look, the guys that were just played the national title game, that's completely understandable. But I think that at the end of the day, I was interested to see if more of the big names were going to end up going. Now, that said, there were other guys that took advantage of those opportunities. So Maxi Honachor, the right tackle from Arizona State, senior, hasn't played a ton of football in his career. It wasn't that he had like the steadiest week throughout the course of his time in Mobile, but I would say like the highs were as impressive as anybody. And at his size, with his athletic traits, which he'll put on display at the combine as well. I'll be interested to see what the combine props look like on Honachor. But then also like at that position, those guys go high. So as long as he didn't completely melt at the Senior Bowl, I thought he was going to be one of the big risers. But there were a handful of guys at different positions that really stood out.
Well, and what about guys that you look on the field and you're like, that's a Vance Joseph defense kind of player, or that's a Sean Payton offense kind of player? Should we transition right to Eli Heinrich here?
Oh, let's go.
Full Navy breakdown.
Yeah, I mean, look, so he was at the Shrine Bowl, the Navy, kind of like a running back, wide receiver hybrid, and he was on my radar coming into the year. He was listed by most as a running back, and I've watched Navy for forever. They're somewhat local here. When I worked in college, when I worked at Temple, we played Navy every year, so I'm well aware. Like, all right, like this is the type of player, the type of athlete we're going to see. It's basically a group of 11 guys that all look exactly the same, like body type wise.
Yes.
All the offensive linemen and all the running backs look exactly the same. But when you look at Heidenreich, what stood out to me is while he was listed as a running back, and I get why, I actually liked his projection more as a wide receiver moving into the NFL. And I'm going to be honest, I don't feel all that different after seeing him up close at the Shrine Bowl. I think, like, from a pass protection standpoint, from a decisiveness as a running back, pure running back standpoint, I thought he was just okay. But all the receiving work stuff looks awesome. And so, like, if we're talking about movable chess piece, like a guy that Sean Payton can move around, of the players that I saw down in Frisco at the Shrine Bowl, I would say that Heidenreich is one that I would certainly kind of like, all right, let's put it, highlight him. He's a name to keep an eye on for Denver. There were a number of tight ends that I think could, you can get into like the Joker skill set. There was Seydou Traore from Mississippi State, kind of well-traveled. He's been at 3 different schools. But this is a guy that's got an athletic background, just an okay blocker. But he's kind of got that movable, like, Joker skill set at tight end. Honestly, the tight end class overall is pretty good this year. It's a pretty good tight end class. Now, at the very top, it's really just kind of, it's like Kenyon Sadiq, who's awesome, one of my favorite players in the draft, first round pick. And then I think after that, it's like solid. And then it kind of flattens out, and there's a bunch of just like solid contributors. Like, I've got a couple like Adam Troutman comps, right? Like, you're just like solid contributing like NFL tight ends, but maybe just not like 3-down Pro Bowl talents. So honestly, that's the feel that I've got with this draft overall. And I think that tight end position is kind of a microcosm of that.
Yeah. A lot of tight ends too. Go
ahead,
John.
I mean, sticking with that, Kenyon Sadiq, we've talked about him quite a bit. It seems like you got him 11th on your board, but, we've seen him kind of high to mid-20s at this point, kind of approaching that Broncos range. Do you think he's like maybe the ideal type of weapon that would fit in the Sean Payton offense, kind of in that first-round target?
Oh, I mean, yeah, he'd be perfect. That's like exactly what you would look for from a skill set standpoint as that Joker, because he's a guy that you move around. He's an outstanding athlete. He's not the biggest, but he's not a bad blocker either. Now, are you going to put him like hand in the dirt and block a defensive end and run power like behind him, at the point of attack? No, you're not going to ask him to do that time and time again. That's what, the Adam Troutmans of the world are for. When you've got Kenyon Sadiq, though, and you want to move him around, you want to get those matchup advantages, what he does with the ball in his hands after the catch, he can be a weapon down the seam, like impact all 3 levels. I mean, he's awesome. And so when I look at Sadiq, a lot of people have questioned, the production wasn't always there. And, especially like this year when he became the starter for the first time, I look at the traits and I say, like, this is a player that, especially like the competitiveness that he shows as a blocker. He's got a 3-down skill set. There have been plenty of tight ends. There are time after time after time where we see a tight end in college that was not a featured weapon and didn't get a high target share. George Kittle comes to mind. He had 20 catches in his career at Iowa, right? And then he goes and he's one of the best tight ends in football. I don't think you want to overthink it with Sadiq. I'd be shocked if he made it outside of the top 25 guys. Like, to me, like, in this draft with that skill set, with that upside, I know the tight end position, like who's going to end up taking a stab there in the first round. My guess is Sadiq will be one of those guys.
Yeah, I've been surprised at the trendy, like, having Sadiq outside. Like, there was a 2-month stretch where he was a lock for the top 15.
Right.
And then I think, what is it, the USC game where he goes off, and then maybe he's a lock even for the top 10. Mm-hmm. And now we're in this phase where a lot of mocks have him lower.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It is. I mean, Fran, with this draft class, though, I mean, I feel like the Broncos picking at 30th are kind of in a great range here. I mean, I think you have, I don't know, around 20, 25 first-round grades here. I mean, even some of them are first and second-round grades. Do you agree with that? Like, is this a great spot to be in for this year's draft where really it's just kind of whatever you think fits what you're doing offensively or defensively at that 30th spot?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly would rather be picking at 30 in this draft than at 3 if we're talking about like ROI, like getting the return on the investment. I think that a lot of the players are going to go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in this class. You're kind of saying like, oh, like in an ideal world, I'm probably not taking this player in this spot, but somebody's got to go, right? And that's what every single mock I look, and talking with people around the league, around the media, everyone that's just like kind of getting into the draft and starting to say like, oh, like I'm starting to watch players. What we're talking about this guy at 6 overall. We're talking about this guy at 8 overall. What am I missing here? And I'm like, yeah, keep watching players because somebody's got to go. And so I would much rather be, if you're talking return on investment, you'd much rather be picking towards the back end of the round here in this draft. But look, I say this all the time, and when we talk about like, oh, this is a bad draft, the league is littered with players, the elite players in the NFL, great players in the NFL who were not viewed as like universally great talents. You guys see like Max Crosby, not viewed as an elite talent in this class. If Bo Nix was in this draft, like would Bo Nix be talked about? Like I don't think he'd be talked about differently. He still probably would go like in the outside. He'd be going behind Mendoza, and it would be like, oh, like where's he going to go in this draft? He's turned into a great player, right? And so I think when you're looking at this class, beauty is it's always in the eye of the beholder, but it's going to be up to these teams to unearth who are those guys that have that intangible factor that's going to elevate their game and reach that upside where others won't.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because the more like O-line wide receiver tape I've been watching the last couple days, I'm like, we're missing some of the like true blue chippers. It's like, how many second round grades am I going to have? I expected to be more impressed by guys in watching the Senior Bowl one-on-ones, and it was more like, ugh.
Yep.
So it's an interesting group, but we've already got questions on your last mock draft where you were one of the few guys who gave the Broncos an offensive weapon, and you gave them Justin Jolie, who's still pretty high on your board. Though, I mean, we got to talk about this. It's updating in real time, Fran. I just saw Mendoza jump up to 1 like just now. Are you draft ranking right now on our show?
I mean, literally, basically, and that's the thing about the draft guide, right? Is that while other people are saying like, oh, like I re-released my big board, you just check it every day. There's a new version of the big board. Right? I'm constantly doing work on these guys, and honestly, like just to give you guys a peek behind the curtain on my process, right? The last 2-3 months, we'll say, have been so heavily focused on Shrine Bowl and Senior Bowl players, right? So guys that were going to those games. And so there are a lot of guys, because at the end of the day, like this is a marathon, not a sprint, right? Like I don't need to race to make sure that my final evaluation on the top juniors and like the 5th overall pick, the 8th overall pick, 100%. Those don't need to be like completely ironed out and finished. I'd rather, to me personally, I want to be able to go to those all-star games and be more well-versed on like the wide breadth of players are there. Because we're talking like 250 players at these events, because the roster sizes have gotten so big because of attrition throughout the week. So many guys go down to these events, and I want to try and get eyes on as many of them as possible. So now I always have like these projects that I kind of file away and say like, all right, that's a post Senior Bowl thing. All right, that's a post Senior Bowl thing. When I get back from Senior Bowl, I'll do this. So like the first thing on the docket this week, once I finished getting all the Senior Bowl notes into the draft guide, was I'm going to watch every single Arvell Reese snap on the ball as a defensive lineman. Like, I don't want to watch any of the linebacker stuff. I don't watch anything in the slot. Like every single play of him lined up along the defensive line. So yesterday afternoon into yesterday evening, like that's why I watched Arvell Reese. Today I'm doing some of the top quarterbacks. So I'm just kind of revisiting those guys. And I'll do it a couple other times throughout the course of the pre-draft process. Today I'm doing all of their 3rd and long dropbacks. So 3rd and 7+. I did Mendoza this morning. I've got Ty Simpson and Nussmeier, and I try and watch guys in bunches in that when I do stuff like that. So, I can kind of compare apples to apples from that sense. But yeah, there's going to be movement every day, especially these next couple of weeks. Because there are some big name juniors that declared that I just didn't get to it all. Like I haven't done, Ohio State defensive tackle Caden McDonald. Haven't done him yet. Right. So there's some players that I'll be watching for the first time in the next few days as well.
Yeah, I'm sadly such a draft guide loyalist that I notice when Arvell Reese moves up and when Fernando Mendoza move up. Those were things we were going to talk about today in segment 2, but that's alleviated.
Well, and that's like, because I've had people ask me, Dre, about it. Is like, oh, like you're really low on this guy or really high on that guy. Like, I'm like, yeah, I know, Ty Simpson is really high up there. That's why it's always, I leave in there, like on the draft guide, like when the report was written, when was the last update made to the report? Because yes, like I wrote it, I want to say it was like late October. I don't have it in front of me. Late October, things were all pointing up, things unwrapped. It wasn't great for him down the stretch. Yeah. I won't make a movement on the board, on my notes, until I watch the film on the game, right? Like, and on the player. So I'm not just gonna say like, oh, everybody's dropping Ty Simpson. It seems like things went bad. Like, let me bump him down the board. That's not how I operate. I will never operate that way. So until I put that work in to verify what I saw, that's when the movement will happen. So maybe this afternoon, Ty Simpson drops down a bit. Maybe he doesn't. Well, that'll be something for everybody to keep an eye out for in the next 12 hours or so.
I need like notifications.
I know.
I need, Fran just moved so-and-so on the board. I need notifications. This is a great time to plug that. Obviously, it's draft season. We're into it. And there's no better draft guide than what Fran Duffy is offering on our website. All you have to do is become a diehard, and we've got that sale going on right now where you can do that for $36 a year. You get all of Fran's content, you get a free shirt, you get discounts at the bar, at our events, on our merch, and then all the great content we have on the website, not just Fran, but obviously all our Denver coverage, the stuff you write, Scotty writes, Hank, Zach. On the Broncos side, I mean, it is such a great offer for diehard fans like us. Dion, click on just like one report for us and just see how comprehensive it is. For starters,
keep scrolling because it goes.
I need a pronunciation guide. He's got that. You've got stats. You've got color-coded scouting reports, so you can see the negative notes, the positive notes.
The color coding's incredible.
It's incredible. You've got relevant quotes and stuff. I love the Jolie quotes. You've got like stats that will update, measurements that will update, and then you keep. Dion's been scrolling for days. He's halfway through the report. And then what I love is then you get to the tweets that has all the highlights and stuff, all the different like relevant clips of people breaking down film. So it's not only is it as comprehensive and it's a live document that lives on and gets updated, it's also dynamic because it's got all these different elements to it and will be updated throughout. So it's not just great because Fran's on top of this stuff and lives and breathes it. It's also the way it's designed, and you can just check it out, go position by position, check out those rankings. I mean, the big board here, you can just keep scrolling. There's like 386 reports on here. So it's amazing stuff. And obviously this is why the draft guide and Fran have kind of become like a character in our weekly draft show.
Yeah.
So even though Fran's not always on, we're referencing him
yes, sir.
At all times. You are synonymous with Justin Jolie, who if listeners of the show are like, who is that? You might know him as Justin Jolly, but now I check the pronunciation on the draft guide, so I know better than that. And yeah, I think you are as high as anyone on the NC State tight end. When I first saw your rankings, watched his Pitt game, which is a hilarious game where he runs the touchdown in with a viral clip.
Greg Jennings.
Limping all the way. Greg Jennings
put the team on his back, though.
I was like, okay, he's good. And only recently have I gone back and watched more, and I watched the Florida State tape, for example, and I really see what you're hyped about now. But you tell the people what this move tight end from NC State brings to the table and why you are so high on him, friend.
Yeah, he's a converted wide receiver with route running chops, the ability to win at the catch point. You talked about the yards after catch. Now, I will say, like I was really excited to see him down in Mobile at the Senior Bowl. I was hoping to see a little bit more from him. Going back through, just obviously watching the film every day at the end of practice, but then just going back through my notes at the end of the week, I'm like, yeah, like we didn't really have that big moment from Justin Jolie that we had from other players at different positions. The tight ends, I would say overall, were just solid over the course of the week. Now, he did draw a handful of flags. So it's like, all right, like, you know, if those guys don't grab him, does he end up making some of those catches down the field that that end up standing out in people's minds? But I would say he was a little bit disappointing as a blocker, even in that setting. You're hoping like, all right, you know, in practice, are you going to be able to show a little bit better than what he did? So he's a player that I knew I was high on. I was kind of betting on the upside there in terms of what he could be, but we'll see if he ends up staying up there quite that high. That's a player that I'll be certainly revisiting. But that said, like even if he does drop down like a tier, I still think like he's a guy that one of the best pure like receiving tight ends in this group. Converted receiver, like I said, began his career at UConn, transferred to NC State the last couple of years. They had a great tight end room down there at NC State, and he was a big time contributor in the ACC.
Yeah, in some ways reminds me, to give you a type, if you've never watched him before, there's a little more athletic Harold Fannin to his game.
I could see that. Yeah.
Like Jonnu Smith was a name I wrote down. Like,
Jonnu Smith, he looks like a ton. Yeah,
totally. See that.
He's like, you know, kind of like an undersized H-back move tight end type of player. And it's a matter of like how effective he becomes as a blocker is ultimately going to determine like what is his role. Like, does he have the 3-down skill set, or is it like he's probably more like committee, you know, what Jonnu has become, where it's like, like he catches a lot of balls, but he still only plays like 27 snaps a game, like that kind of thing.
Just about the wide receivers, Fran. I mean, you got Chris Brazzell up here pretty high. I mean, you mentioned, you know, your process and how it's always updating, but I feel like, you know, we've talked a lot about this wide receiver class, and there's a ton of guys I think could fit really well for the Broncos. Just, you know, how do you see this wide receiver class? You know, you got Mekhi Lemon, wide receiver 7. I'd love to ask you like 7 questions about this, by the way. So just what are the wide receivers you think really fit the Broncos and what Sean Payton wants to do?
I mean, Brazzell certainly fits when you think about like the oak trees that he has brought in there over the last few. You didn't even go back to New Orleans, right? Like some of the big bodies. You know, Brazzell is that, and he has got real vertical ability. For a guy that is that big, I would expect him to go to the combine, and he should be one of the most physically impressive receivers in attendance out in Indianapolis. I'm expecting that the receiver out of Tennessee. Now, ripped up Georgia when they beat Georgia earlier this season.
Yes.
When you're looking at Brazzell, like, big guy that runs well. I wrote down Nico Collins as a comp. And again, like Nico Collins was a 3rd-round pick coming out of Michigan, was an unrefined, kind of like a big-bodied vertical threat. And that's kind of how I view Brazzell. And he's not just straight line speed. Like he can sink his hips and create separation as well. He showed some really good flashes. Now, he's got refinement. He's got to do it more consistently. There's stuff that's needed there. You know, I think there is a little bit of boom-bust element when we're talking about Brazzell. But I do think from a physical skill set, he absolutely checks the box in terms of what you're looking for. Now, if I could take Chris Brazzell's body and then I could take Mekhi Lemon, his like skill set and like his toughness and all, and I could put that into Brazzell, he's a top 2. He's like number 1 pick worthy.
Yeah.
You know, that's when I watched Lemon, he's tough. He's physical. He got better as a route runner this year. I thought that he was really crisp and he catches pretty much everything thrown his way. I just have questions about like the overall at that size, the overall athlete, you know, the upside. You know, are you going to be able to consistently create separation?
Yeah.
Like people have drawn comparisons to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and people call him, small Puka. Like calling a guy like smaller Puka Nacua, that's
real.
like removing a pretty big stinger. You know, one of the big reasons why Puka Nacua is really good is because he's really big and really strong.
Yeah.
He's really tough. Like that's great, and I do think that there's elements there that he's going to be like a starting level receiver. To me, like if we're talking about taking him in the top 15, I can't get there. I can't from what I've seen so far. Now I'm going to do one of the things I'll do now that we've got the full season's worth of tape. Like I watch every single target, but he's a player, guys, that I have revisited 2 or 3 times throughout the process where I'm like, I want to like him more than I do because I like the player. I just can't get there with the upside that we're talking about.
Yeah, there's a lot to get into with the wide receivers. Malachi Fields. There's the crafty, maybe dogs, let's say the Lemons of the world. And then there's some big bodies. We're going to dream on him. Brazzell's, Fields, Justin Jolly, I think a lot. Maybe even Kenyon Sadiq is in this category, though. At least it gives you more guarantees. Carnell Tate to some extent. But yeah, Fields was a guy who, if you only saw the clips going across your Twitter feed, some of these mock drafts that have him at the end of the 1st, beginning of the 2nd, you'd think, when I watch the one-on-ones, another one of those guys I was a smidge more underwhelmed by. But I did go back and watch some UVA stuff from 24 where he was like 10th in the ACC in receiving yards. And I got to say, there's a little more promise there, but he's an interesting mammoth wide receiver from Notre Dame.
Yeah, and he's one too, Dre. Like if you go into the section on the draft guide where you can like read quote, I've been hearing about Malachi Fields from former teammates at Virginia at the combine since he was a freshman. Like people have been talking about him nonstop, and not just like ability, but work ethic and intangibles. And you start digging in a little bit more into the character and reaching out to sources. Everybody raves about this player, and so he is one where I love the floor. Because he gets after as a blocker. He's got great size. Route running is solid, not great, but he can go up and win at the catch point. The catch he made down in Mobile was one of the best I've seen at the Senior Bowl. Like one of the best individual catches I've seen. It wasn't even just like the look it in part of it. It was like the ball tracking, the adjusting the path and flight of the ball. Unbelievable rep. Was he like all inspiring the rest of the week? No, but he was still one of the best receivers down there. And it was a pretty light receiving class overall in Mobile. But I do think that he was one of the best guys down there. He's got great size. The character's great. He was a high school quarterback who didn't play receiver until college. He played right away and was productive right away. And I think that speaks to like a guy's character and intangibles as well. But yeah, there's a lot to like with this player. And again, about the floor, it's the kind of like with Lemon, a question of the ceiling. Now he's got an elite physical trait with his size, and that's going to be the difference maker for him in a lot of situations.
Ted Hurst made some noise out there, the Georgia State wide receiver as well. I mean, imposing size. That was the first thing that stood out to me, but also it seems like he really gets off the line well and can stretch the field. You got him wide receiver 9 now. Just your impression of him and what you've heard of him so far.
Yeah, he's got great length, his ability to go up and win. And he was the guy for that football. That was a bad team the last couple of years, but consistently productive, was able to put up numbers, even though everyone knew, everyone and their mother knew in the stadium, like they want to get that guy the ball. They want to get the ball to 7. And I think when you're looking at Hurst, his ability to go up and win is definitely a sticking point. Can he get a little bit better as a route runner? No question. He's going to need some refinement in a lot of areas. His release package can definitely improve as well. But this is a big body who's got long strides, can get on top of people. He had a couple of really nice flashes down in Mobile, had a couple that weren't so nice. So I think that he was a little bit up and down, which is to be expected for a smaller school player. Combine will be big, but I could absolutely see him in the day 2 mix at the end of the day, which is more than what people would have expected, I think, coming into the fall.
Yeah, as you were saying, a lot of like tight end 2 options in this class. Yep. I think what I'm hearing is you're also wondering if some of these guys are like a really nice wide receiver 4 for you, but not necessarily someone who you're like, he's for sure your starting X wide receiver on a contender. We each get one more question. Okay, Jake.
Okay.
And that's already pushing it. But for the Broncos at 30, best case scenario of a tippy top guy to fall to their position. Cool. Caden Proctor.
Okay.
The Clemson defensive lineman. Keldric
TJ
Faulk.
Parker.
Yeah. Okay. Or Woods. Or Jermon McCoy.
Who's most likely?
Actually, who would be best for the Broncos to have fall in their lap?
I kind of think that it would be probably one of the Clemson defensive linemen. I think would be the best case from that group. Yeah. When I think of contracts, guys that are expiring now, guys that are coming, and I just think of the way that they want to play defense. I think McCoy would be great too, but just having addressed the secondary the last couple of years, obviously Sertan back there, you don't necessarily need to go, for that one spot. You just drafted Barron last year, obviously a different role and position and body type, but I think it would be one of the D linemen from Clemson would be the guy that I would point to as like best case scenario.
Did Parker impress you at Mobile? Because again, that's the guy who you just see the one clip and you're like, man, he's amazing. Yeah. And watching one-on-ones, I was like, meh.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that back in the summer with all the 2 early mock drafts, right? TJ Parker was being talked about as like top 5 pick, top 10 pick. And I was like, no, don't see that. I think he's a nice player, but like not like that elite talent. And then he didn't have like a super productive year most of Clemson did not. Didn't have that super productive year this year, and now everyone's like, oh, like second round pick, and I'm like, well, hold on, guys, like he's still a good player. It's just that I don't view him as like honestly, and this will resonate. He kind of one of the guys that I wrote down when I watched him back in the summer was Bradley Chubb.
Totally.
And Bradley Chubb was, it's like, like solid player, like, and has turned into a really solid pro. Like, is he an all pro? Is he like going to be an 8-time Pro Bowler when he retires? No, but he's a good player. And that's kind of how I view TJ Parker. And I appreciate the fact that he was one of like the quote unquote, like big name, like potential first round picks.
Right.
Went to the Senior Bowl, was out there all 3 days, made his presence felt all 3 days, played in the game, like whole deal. Like, all right, and that honestly, that will ring true with NFL teams. Like the NFL teams, and I think agents and players are becoming more aware of this, by the way, because this was talked about a lot by GMs and head coaches in the post-draft press conferences last year. Was like, this guy went down the Senior Bowl. He played all 3 days, played in the game,
right.
And that really resonated with us. I think for Parker to do that could be a separating factor between him and another guy at that position when it comes down to draft day.
I want to ask you about the running backs, Fran. Obviously, those all-star games are not really the best settings for those type of guys, but I mean, I see you got Le'Veon Moss, RB6. I mean, this is a guy that we loved all year long up until his injury. Who do you think is, obviously aside from like Jeremiah Love and, some of those top guys in the first round or second round range, who do you think is a guy who could really complement RJ Harvey and fit Sean Payton's offense from a running back standpoint?
Yeah, it's a good question. I do think that when I'm looking at this running back group that, it's the flavor of ice cream, like type of conversation, right? Like depends on what you're looking at. So if I want to compare someone or, put someone and pair them with RJ Harvey, then I want like my, like, thicker between the tackles, like let Harvey be the space move gadget type of player. So I look at Jonah Coleman would be the first name, and he's a guy that we were hoping to see in Mobile, ended up pulling out of the event late, but bigger back, downhill between the tackles. I do think that he is best served being in a committee and kind of like your not their bell cow necessarily, but he can do some of that dirty work between the tackles and let somebody else do the space stuff. Katron Allen is a personal favorite of mine from Penn State. I do think that he's like your classic like mid-round pick. I compared him to Kyron Williams back in the summer, and I honestly I still feel that holds true where it's like Kyron Williams, like he's undersized and he's short, but he's not small, but he's not explosive and he's not overly shifty, but he's just a really efficient like doubles runner. Like it's just like he's constantly getting on base. That's kind of how I view Katron Allen is the same kind of player. Like he's going to check the box in every situation. He's really disciplined. He protects the football. He can do a little bit of everything, but he's just not overly dynamic. So I would say Katron Allen. And honestly, I have Le'Veon Moss, like you said, right in that same ballpark. So it's a good running back group from like that end of it. Like the middle rounds, I think there's some decent depth there. I don't think it's as strong as last year's overall. But obviously, Jeremiah Love's awesome. Jadarian Price is awesome. Like there are two individual talents, but the top of the group is just not great this year.
Yep.
That was amazing.
That was awesome, bro.
Thank you so much, Fran. We got to keep up through draft season. Yeah. We'll have to do this again soon. 4 months. For it's our season. It's glorious.
Sir. Cannot wait.
I cannot wait. That was Fran Duffy on the Xfinity call in line. Imagine that. Thank you so much, Fran. God bless, and we'll talk soon.
Appreciate it, guys. Talk soon.
Absolutely. That was awesome. That was lots of fun.
Incredible.
Yeah. And the draft guide right now is getting lots of good updates. So you got to check that out. Leave us a thumbs up. Show Fran some love. I actually am going to start perusing some of this Toyota chat, see if there's any good stuff that we missed. And while I do that, Jake, we kind of surveyed different mock drafts from around the interwebs.
Right.
Trying to see what's being said post-combine. Or post-Senior Bowl, my bad.
Yes.
So Matt Miller on ESPN had a 2-rounder. You had Lance Zierlein on NFL.com.
Yep.
That CBS crew's always churning out mocks like mad. So just wanted to talk about risers, Broncos picks. So the floor is yours on anything that stood out to you.
Yeah. So shout out to Jose in the chat. We did kind of snub him when Fran was here talking about linebackers, but I think that's where I want to start, and that's Matt Miller. In his mock draft, he's got Anthony Hill Jr., the Texas linebacker, falling to the Broncos at 30th.
Favorite of mine.
Totally. To go back to what Fran said, and it's something, I kind of mentioned a few weeks ago, I just think that the Broncos are really set up well with where they're drafting, just position-wise in this draft.
Yeah.
Again, it is a weird class, right? There's a lot of guys coming back to school this next year. NIL's changed a lot of things. And picking at 30th, I mean, you really do just get your pick of the litter, and you're going to have some guys fall to you. It's inevitable. So I really just believe that we're going to get a good player at 30. And I think you're going to get a guy who Sean Payton is going to be, they're going to have a role for in particular, right? Like we're at that point of team building where it's like you really just need to add a few things here and there. Also, Chris Bell at 62. This 2-pick like run for the Broncos, if this is how it works out,
incredible.
It's A+. And again, Chris Bell, ACL tear late in the season. Who knows how ready he's going to be or how available at all he's going to be for 2026. But man, that would be very, very exciting if that works out that way.
No wide receiver tore up that Miami defense the way Chris Bell did in a massive upset for Louisville this season. He's a 220-pound wide receiver, and he runs like it. I mean, he's that kind of wide out that, can go up and get you the contested. He can also take a 7-yard slant and turn it into a 60-yard touchdown. So seems like an amazing opportunity with the injury. And Anthony Hill was in my top 10 preseason. He's a super mobile, athletic linebacker. I think he'd really fit nicely with this defense. That'd be lots of fun. I did think that pairing was ideal. And it's a great example of beauty in the eye of the beholder. For some, Anthony Hill's a top 20 talent. For some, he's a top 50 talent, and it's going to be that kind of draft where you have the opportunity to get a guy who's top 15 for you at 30, but he's still available at 30. And at 60, you're able to get a guy who's top 50 for some, but you're able to get him at 60, Yep. The CBS draft gave us CJ Allen. So another linebacker. I mean, that'd be a great fit. That's the other thing is CJ Allen could go top 20, could easily drop to the 30s, the Georgia linebacker. And then Lance Zierlein giving the Broncos KC Concepcion.
These are all fantastic.
Sign me up. Concepcion, a guy I was seeing less in a lot of these mocks. Maybe a faller for me.
Let's hope it stays that way then. I love this guy.
I would take it. And I know I was seeing in the Toyota chat, people were talking about, Kuiper loves Mekhi Lemon. Daniel Jeremiah loves Mekhi Lemon.
Sure. And with that, I totally understand what Fran says.
He's not a prototypical, size, speed guy you fall in love with.
Absolutely. But the game has changed. And it's just a different day and age where guys that size are, don't have to be scared for their life running, intermediate routes across the middle, short routes across the middle, stuff like that. It's so easy to manufacture touches, I think, for guys. I mean, I don't know what Luther Burden, I can't remember exactly what he was listed as, but I could see Mekhi Lemon doing some stuff like that as a rookie and potentially, blooming from there, obviously, too. But we say it all the time, though. It's a size league.
100%. And what I love about Fran's rankings is they do reflect that quite a bit.
Yes.
He is thinking about that.
Yes.
Even Brazel, who it sounded like maybe isn't a guy he's absolutely in love with.
Right.
But it's pretty simple. He's a 6'4" wide receiver who probably runs in the low 4.4s, if not better, and just had 1,000-yard receiving season in the SEC on 50 receptions.
Yep.
So
I mean, for him, it's just the offense.
What's not 100%?
I mean, we saw Jalen
and how
Hyatt.
raw he is. I mean, I don't know.
Well, true. And again, that's Jalen Hyatt, right? He came in super raw, just wasn't ready to really be anywhere close to an impact player. And I mean, shoot, he's kind of a little bit behind the 8 ball at this point too. And that's just the fear, I think, in drafting those guys in that super Baylor spread wide open offense.
Yeah, feels like there's a bit of nuance missing in his game as a wide receiver. But we got to go back to some Toledo tape too with him. It's the age of NIL. I get so much out of going back to watch Joe Lee's UConn tape, going back to watch Cassius Howell at Bowling Green, going back to watch Max Clare at Purdue, or Thielman,
Thieneman. I don't know how to say that. Actually, does Fran have a pronunciation?
Purdue, right? It's just the age of NIL. There's a lot of value on that. And with Concepcion, I'm also seeing Kenyon Sadiq, as we were talking about with Fran, drop a little bit, which to some extent I get. I mean, there is some Sadiq tape where it's like, yeah, Dante Moore's not necessarily looking at him.
Mm-hmm.
The postseason was kind of quiet from him. He didn't have necessarily any big breakout games. I mean, shoot, we just came off a draft where Tyler Warren's numbers were stupid. Harold Fannin was like leading the country in most categories as a tight end.
And then Colston Loveland is just like the biggest wide receiver tight end of all time, pretty much.
And Sadiq's just kind of more, A, he's a little undersized, and B, as a wide receiver, like there are those great games, and there are also games where he's just a little more normal.
Sure.
And maybe he wasn't even the best receiving tight end on that squad, which is what's crazy. Yeah. But that other kid is going to be like the top tight end in next year's class. So Faulk is certainly dropping, Keldric Faulk, the Auburn defensive lineman, which you get it. The production wasn't great. He's in that Mikael Williams, Tavon Walker, body beautiful, but the production isn't necessarily incredible. And, Caleb Downs and the aforementioned Cassius Howell. I think those are all guys who've kind of dropped a little bit on boards and in mocks.
Look, be very aware of prospect fatigue this time of year too, right? I mean, a lot of those guys were seen as, like you said, top 5, top 10. Like, some dudes can just play, man. And we put a lot of stock into, yes, the most recent season. It does matter greatly, but if you've seen it, sometimes you just got to trust your eyes on guys like that.
100%. It does seem like one of the biggest risers is Caleb Banks, the mammoth defensive lineman out of Florida. He had a decent day 2 and 3 at the Senior Bowl, though maybe a little overrated after watching some of the one-on-ones. Frankly, I thought in some ways I could have made the argument for another mammoth Florida school defensive lineman in Darrell Jackson of Florida State being more dominant than Banks was. But Banks in these mocks is really getting a lot of hype, some even putting him in the top 10. And this is a guy, Jake, I feel like 2 episodes ago we were talking about a mock that had the Broncos selecting him at 30. Most of these mocks haven't gone by then now.
Yep, big man's league.
It is 100%.
First
guy off the bus type dude.
That's exactly it, yeah. Obviously, the production, I mean, Fran, this thing's incredible, by the way. Go check out this draft guide.
Yeah.
I get nervous when I see foot injury for big 6'6", 338-pound linemen who missed more than half the year.
As he should.
So it's a risk, I think. But again, I mean, you project him to be someone, I don't know, maybe not as big as Jordan Davis, but like a Dexter Lawrence type. If you can dominate at that position, man, you are a game-changing type of player that you can build a defense off of.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of like him drafted to the Chiefs.
I mean, a lot of these scenarios in these mocks are terrible. There's a Ruben Bain to the Chiefs.
I mean, they're drafting 10th overall.
Yeah,
they'll probably get a good player. Yeah, Jeremiah Love, Kenyon Sadiq. They're all scenarios that make me sick.
David Bailey from Matt Miller. It's just, it's rough.
Lee Hunter seems to be a big riser as well. He had a pretty good Senior Bowl. Yeah. It's a great nose tackle class. So I do keep coming back to the Hunter question of, is he a good enough nose tackle to warrant being selected in the top 25, top 30? Or do you just wait till the 3rd round or hang on to, any?
I mean,
like, is he that nose tackle difference maker that does enough on 3rd down to warrant that? And that's where Darrell Jackson intrigues me quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think right now, which for a team...
He has his moments.
He does, for sure. And he had a fantastic Senior Bowl, I think. I think he was one of the biggest risers overall in general. But it's just such a hard projection, I think, too, especially on defense like this where Man, if you're the weak link on the Broncos defense, like you are going to be painted in red and you are going to be targeted constantly.
Yeah, facts.
So, and again, it's a big man's league though. Like I don't think Fran has him listed here as D tackle 10, 148th overall player, even if he feels that way. I just don't think he goes that low just because these guys just never end up staying. Like they never hang around till the day 3. Like how many times have you ever really seen that?
But there is a lot this year.
Banks, it is a great
Jackson,
class. Yes.
Dominique Orange, the Iowa State kid, is huge. He's
Corleone's down here. Like, yeah.
Right. Dante Corleone, the Godfather, is down there. Cameron Ball looked good in one-on-ones. He's a 313-pound lineman out of Arkansas. Yeah, so there's some big boys. There's some big boys in this class. So he'll have competition. I personally love Hunter.
I mean, me too.
And I think he might be what the doctor ordered for the Broncos as well.
He was at UCF, I think, before Texas Tech, and he was by far one of their most impactful, best players on the team.
Well, and you know what Texas Tech was able to do? Like what their brand of football was?
It was tough, hard-nosed trench football.
But it was also undersized speed demons.
Yeah.
On the edges.
Yeah.
And at off-ball linebacker and Jacob Rodriguez being able to do whatever the hell they wanted.
I mean, they were fast as hell.
And I can't help but think that beyond their awesome traits, that a guy like Lee Hunter up the middle opened up so many things for them.
I mean, absolutely.
And what could someone like Lee Hunter do for Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper, and if you drafted an Anthony Hill, you know, and how he opens that up, has me very intrigued. He's just broad-shouldered. There's some moments where I watch him and I'm like, damn, he's got some real Vita Vea to his game.
I could see that. Peter Woods has some of that too, though, where maybe it wasn't. No one on Clemson played well this last year, but
the Clemson guys I watched last night, I was like, ugh, am I out on all 3 of these dudes?
Really?
Parker, Woods, Avion Terrell. I'm just kind of like, ugh. I know. I wasn't expecting. And Bradley Chubb is exactly what I was thinking with TJ Parker.
Totally.
Because it is like, bro, I know you check off a lot of boxes. You're great against the run. You've got that good power move, but please do something more for me.
It's different when it's not a top 5 pick, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Especially,
he's just a great edge 2. He'll never be edge 1.
Sure. But like, if the Broncos, I mean, if they were facing some depth issues going into this next season at the edge.
No, and if he's just your JFM replacement, maybe that's exactly what the doctor ordered.
100%.
And Peter Woods, I didn't go back to watch, so I need to give that disclaimer. I've been wanting to call him Brian Bursey all day.
He was at the Senior Bowl, right?
He literally is identical. Woods, I don't think was.
Okay.
I think it was just TJ Parker.
Okay. I mean, you're right, though. There is some options on the defensive line. It is kind of a deep class.
Zion Young's another riser I'm noticing.
Yeah.
And I mean, that dude is built. He's out of Central Casting, the edge from Missouri.
Mizzou.
He tested out. He's 6'5", 262 with 33-inch arms. It's like 33.5-inch arms. So, like, he's perfect.
Close
Would be
enough.
another great JFM replacement, you know? And yeah, it's a big man's league. So again, I got to remind myself of that with TJ Parker. Seems like the Toledo safety, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, is kind of a set and forget top 25er.
Yeah.
Nachor has definitely been a big riser. Malachi Fields has been a big riser. Brandon Cease.
Yes.
I think I was calling him a Cisse, so apologies to the family. In fun news, I do think Emmanuel Prignon pronounced like that.
I think you're right. Yeah.
So when in doubt, I might go French. I do follow international soccer. So Cisse is like, he was a Liverpool striker. So, I apologize. But Cease, the South Carolina corner. So those kind of seem to be the big right. And Blake Miller and Morgan Freeling. What the hell is his first name? I need it in front of me.
Well, now you got me.
Well, okay. Well, we have these open. So
Monroe
Freeling, yes. The Georgia left. God.
Close enough, though.
You have to like save me and be like, Dre, for those who don't know the bit, it's actually Joe Lee. Like I was telling Jake, like I've been consuming more draft content, and I'm realizing I'm calling Jake Galladay the Cincy linebacker. Galladay. It's actually Golday. And like Justin Jolly, I'm calling him Justin Jolly. It's Joe Lee.
We're all learning.
Why
names
can't
this
I
time
get
of year.
this right?
It's okay, bro. I don't think anyone is judging you. We're all learning at the
At the same speed. Yeah.
But it's this time of year.
Yeah.
It's pronunciation season. Like we haven't even gotten to the combine yet. They're gonna say the names on TV for us. Like we'll be okay.
It's true. So yeah, those were my notes there. Do you have a top 5 wide receiver ranking, Jake?
I can do one off rip right now.
Yeah, I'd love to hear off rip your top 5 wide receivers, and then we've got a super chat that I want.
Okay. I feel like there's a firm top 2 that are in a class of their own, and it's Tyson and Tate.
Yeah, I agree.
think that
I agree.
Obviously, Tate is just an Ohio State product, and kind of helmets. I'm just going to trust him, but also it's the size.
He's also 6'3" out of central casting himself. He's crazy.
The production,
the
yes.
upsides.
It's the playing the ball deep downfield, playing the ball in the air, all that stuff. Jordan Tyson, I think, would be, without a doubt, a perfect fit in this offense. He'd be exactly what they needed out of the slot. He can stretch the field deep. He can separate. After that, it does get a little bit muddy. I'm a big fan of Casey Concepcion. I'd probably go him. Chris Bell with the injury probably after that. And then it's like, yeah, maybe... I mean, I really liked Mekhi Lemon. I'd probably have him at 5 right now. I loved Omar Cooper Jr., what he was doing this year as well. I'd need to go back and watch Chris Brazzell.
I know.
I'm just...
Makes you think, doesn't it?
Again, maybe a little bit of helmet scouting, but that offense, man, it's just hard for me to fall in love with those wide receivers. Yep. Totally. You've seen it time and time again that, they are exciting. They do have a lot of traits, but it's just a lot of learning for them in the NFL. So anyways, top 5, it'd be Tate, Tyson, Concepcion, Bell, and then we'll go Lemon.
That's a good one. Yeah, it's Tyson, Tate for me, Bell 3. I love Chris Bell. And then Lemon, Concepcion.
I wanted to ask Fran about Zachariah Branch too, because I feel like he's a very
I would too.
one.
And honestly, when I watch Denzel Boston, I'm kind of like, dude, this guy's too good. He needs to.
But with that too, there's so many guys in this wide receiver class late that I like a lot, man. We talked Heidenreich, the Navy kid, right?
Yeah.
There's Eric Rivers out of Georgia Tech, who I think is really talented. Barry and Brown, I think he really had some nice reps at LSU wide receiver at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
That kid can fly, by the way, too.
Yeah. There's some good undersized guys.
For sure. And then, guys that are just like, if you wanted just another big dude to fill a role, I mean, Eric McAllister out of TCU. He could absolutely do that.
Yeah, Jacoby Lane.
Totally.
Out of USC could do that. Ted Hurst would be nice in the later rounds, Jeremy Bernard, maybe earlier.
Chase Roberts out of BYU. I thought he was a playmaker the last 2-3 years.
Dude, Chase is phenomenal. I actually think maybe not Puka Nacua, but
for sure.
Helmet scouting again, but this is a guy who checks off every box. He's got size, he's got speed, he was a returner in college. He's got nice hands, he was a team captain.
Yep.
He just checks off a lot of boxes and is going to be a good pro. And I've been saying that for a minute. I mean, Reggie Virgil did really well for himself at the Senior Bowl, the Texas Tech wide receiver, and he's got a lot of stuff.
He had some great plays this year.
I mean, I was just rewatching his 2 rushing touchdowns against UCF this morning and was quite impressed. Though I do watch him, I think he's exactly what we hope Troy Franklin will be.
I mean, you can take multiple wide receivers again this year. It wouldn't upset me.
You can. Harrison Wallace, the little Ole Miss wide receiver, was looking real nice at the Senior Bowl as well, if you ask me.
It's been a minute, but Bryce Lance, he's Trey Lance's younger brother, plays at North Dakota State, plays wide receiver. He was their top wide receiver last year for North Dakota State. I mean, Colorado opened against them, so I watched a lot of NDSU tape before that. He was a guy who, I definitely circled and remembered the name. Your guy Deion Burks. We asked him about Ted Hurst. Like, there's so many options for Denver.
Antonio Williams from Clemson.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've been talking about on this pod for a while now. Would you bring up that super chat, Dion, kindly?
Shout out chat, by the way.
Yep. Thank you to the Toyota
like
chat.
button.
Always amazing. Seemed like some really good stuff. We'll get into Sam Roush and some tight ends. I did see short arms, guys. Short arms. But a tight end with a lot of promise. And I like that he was in college. Always stayed at Stanford. And he's got size. He's got some blocking chops. He's got some receiving ability. Short arms do concern me, however. Okay. Game Lore Vault with the 199 super chat. Thank you so much. Trade up in the second for Eli Stowers, the Vandy move tight end, and Ted Hurst, 108. What say you, Jake?
Stowers, honestly, I need to go back and watch a little bit more. Doesn't seem like Fran is too terribly high on him. He actually has him as tight end 12.
Very interesting one, that Stowers.
Yeah, he's an odd one. Like I think I'd rather just go for. Oh, we forgot to ask him about our guy Nowakowski. Either way, I'd just rather go for a pure, a more true Y in that sense.
I like what he's done at Vandy.
I do too.
There are moments where it's like, yeah, this guy's got some real chops. He's let
got a
all
little
tight
Colston
ends
Loveland to him.
100%. Then there are other times where it's like, he's a meh athlete. He plays in line, but he's kind of just whatever. And he doesn't separate.
Yes.
And it's the old wide receiver rules. Like, would you take him over just having Malachi Fields?
Right. I mean, he's just got a massive frame, right? And he's got that Colston Loveland, very natural receiving ability with that frame to go with it.
I'm higher on Trigg, the Baylor tight end. I'm higher on Jolie. I think Max Clare, when I go back to the Purdue stuff, I'm probably more intrigued by. I love Kazoil. Stowers, he's in the mix. Not a guy I feel aggressive enough that we're moving up in the second for him. Hurst at 108, yeah, sure, why not? But there's a lot of good wide receivers that we like. So even if he's gone, we feel like we've got options in both these positions, frankly.
Totally. I thought it was interesting. Fran brought up Sado Traore, who was, if you listen to the Buff Show, Zico that first year. He ends up transferring out, but he was just a very intriguing guy.
That's Zico?
Yes, bro. That's him.
The British.
Yes.
The British kid from FIU or something.
Yes. Or I don't know where he was.
From Arkansas State.
Yes.
From Arkansas State, right.
And then he was a buff.
For a semester.
Yeah.
And then he left and went to Mississippi State. He had to sit out a year.
Yes.
Twice in 1 year.
Yep.
No wonder you lit up when he brought him up. I was like, the Montana kid? Remember there was a Montana wide receiver Traore that got... Anyways, I don't want to get us sidetracked.
But Zico, I mean, this is a guy who I think could be very intriguing. He had a decent season here with Mississippi State as well. Caught 5 touchdowns, averaged over 10 yards a catch. Did that the last 2 years in terms of yards per catch. He is just a little raw, obviously, and is purely kind of a receiving guy. Like, I don't know how much you're going to get from him in the true Y sense or any type of down blocking, but he's just another dude. I mean, listed here at 6'3", 233. He's got Fran's got an Oronde Gadsden the second light comp on him.
Not bad at all. So no, that's a good question, but Ted
Hurst at 108 sign me up though.
It's also, what did the Broncos do in the first round in this scenario? Is it defensive lineman
or a linebacker?
Or a linebacker, right? We were getting a question from the chat asking, does Hunter start over DJ, Roach, or any? Well, I think he's a better run defender than DJ, so on first and second down, yes. In fact, I'd say the same about Roach. And I think he brings a little more pass rush upside than any, for sure. And probably similar to DJ's. and probably slightly less than Roach's. So I think that's where he falls in that, right? So being able to have one guy that kind of serves all those roles, is that valuable enough to you? And is that opening up space? Obviously in that Bills game, you saw a bit of like with the Broncos heavier 5-man front, better defending the run than with the 4-man front. Can 4-man fronts with Lee Hunter as your nose repair some of that and make it so that you're defending the run the same as you did with the 5-man front when you're using just the 4-man front? I think that would be valuable enough to me, but that's where it all falls into that Denver Rouch, which I think are good questions. Did I pronounce Rouch right?
I think you did. Shout out chat today.
You guys were awesome. We really enjoyed that. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Shout out Fran too.
You, Jakester, for doing this. Thank you so much to the great Fran Duffy. Become a diehard, man. You don't want to miss out. This stuff is really amazing. Thank you to Dion Smith on the 1s and 2s. Shout out to all our friends at the Super Bowl. They will have a normal Broncos show for you in, I believe, just 30 minutes. And then I'm looking forward to everyone being back in Colorado and maybe having Big Hank on the draft pod.
Let's run it.
Who knows? Will we ever invite Ryan RK on?
I mean, sure. Why not? Maybe the old draft pod, quad pod?
He's shown some real like advancement in his ball knowledge.
RK?
Yeah, no, he has. I mean, in the last 10 years, I think
He
he's
has
grown
grown
as
quite
much
a
as
bit.
anyone. As I've said to him before, until I hear you breaking down like offensive guard 6 or lower on the consensus board, I might be out. But we'll see. Like, it's a great. How many more times will we have Fran on? When will the combine props pop up on Bet365? Will Hank be a regular? And will RK ever get an invite? These are all like fun questions throughout the draft process for you to think of and see how we check off those boxes. So
All in due time.
I can't wait. 'Tis draft season. Mile high salute to you all. Mad love. And leave us a thumbs up on the way out. Become a diehard. Go Broncos. Bye.
We all silly like the mayor.